Hey guys, how you doing? Emerald Baseball Academy podcast. John Sintez here. First off, I want to start off thank our sponsor, Born in the Cage Apparel. Check them out, borninthecage.com. Got this awesome America flag. Benji, they might have what do you? They have. I think they have a Greece one. They've got a bunch of different nationality ones. You know.
Not
Maybe
interested.
We can get you one up there. They got the Puerto Rican one, the Cuba. They got a lot of good stuff. They got you probably see me wear it too. They have another one that I really like. It's Born in the Bullpen with a backwards K on it. That's one of my favorite ones also. I'll talk to these guys. Maybe we can work something out. We talked a little earlier about possibly trying to get you to meet them. So hopefully they'll probably have some shirts. So bring $10 or we'll yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the show, Benji Waite in Huntsville, Alabama. I appreciate you coming on. A little history. Benji, you and I played against each other to start. I saw you from afar. You were a 2-year Pecos League guy, just like myself. 2 years, right?
I was a 1-year guy.
You were a 1-year guy?
Yeah,
so
I was a 1-year guy.
you were just my second year. Okay.
Yeah, just the second year.
Second year. You actually had the privilege of being on the reality show
yeah.
for the Pecos League. And I have to say, I only saw one episode. I'm so sorry because I was in Mexico playing. But I heard amazing things. Like my wife, my family, they were all like, oh my God.
You heard good things, really, because
Yeah.
I watched 2.5 episodes and I heard the opposite. So, I wasn't able to make it through the whole season.
Well, it didn't get picked up for another season. So
That's strange. I didn't see that coming.
Maybe they realized that maybe the commissioner of the league might have had an issue of how they portrayed it,
Or the players stopped watching it halfway through. I don't know. Who knows,
My favorite part was the commercial. Did you happen to catch the trailer commercial?
Which one?
Oh, the first one was great because it was like they build it up and it was like it went down and then it had what's his name going like, well, you got the majors,
Oh, yeah.
Triple A, Double A, Single A, Indie Ball, Pecos League. Like,
Yeah, we found a way to get below all the other people that are playing right next to
they
League.
transition to it and like all the kids grew up to play professional baseball. And nobody grows up to want to play the Pecos League. I was like, oh, they're going to start the show? Like,
It can't go anywhere good after that. They're just we're setting you up for failure. This is not where you want to be. And these people, well, they're kind of screwed.
Yeah. Well, and me playing, against you guys, it was fun to see the cameras and the stuff like that. And, I got to see myself a little bit on the All-Star game and stuff. But I remember talking. That was like one of the first times you and I actually talked and started hanging out a little bit in the All-Star game. And I remember seeing you and Fabry talking about a trade that had happened. And I cannot believe how, you were over here, we're having a good conversation, and you just went, oh my God! Like, you were completely in character. And I was like, oh, this guy's bought in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you see that as bought in. I saw that as sarcasm, but nobody else was like, oh my gosh, he must be doing that for the camera. I was just, by that time, I was completely over it. I was like, oh, wait, something happened? Camera in my face. I'm like, what do you want me to say? What do you want me to say?
That you're petitioning the real world to try to break their limit of like 27 years old. Are you trying to get,
If I never get in front of another camera besides this, I will be completely okay with that.
That's hilarious. I would love to be on the real world. I would never be anybody that would like cause any controversy, but I would be the guy that would just go into the little room on the side and just be like, these people are crazy. They're absolutely crazy. Like, I'd just be on the fly on the wall. They'd be like, John, you don't really do anything. I'm like, I'm doing a lot. I'm enjoying the show. Like, I am front row of the boxing match always.
I had the best seats in the house. You guys don't recognize it.
Yeah,
Watch this. I sit down with the popcorn.
Yes. Awesome. Well, that had to have been a great experience. You got any funny stories that maybe happened, didn't on the show, that didn't make the air?
Well, we had a couple air out sessions in my truck from the house that we were staying at. There was 2 or 3 of us that stayed there, and we would set a camera. They'd give us a camera so that we could go and come back and kind of, just record some of the stuff and our thoughts on the games and stuff. We had 2 or 3 sessions that we decided needed to be, recorded over because they were inappropriate for the show. And if that were ever to make it on TV, I would not be allowed to go home.
That's awesome.
It's so we went through that whole ordeal, and by the end of it, and it had worn me out pretty good, and we had some struggles with our manager a little bit, and but with all that kind of pile on top of yourself, that it makes up for a pretty good meltdown at the end of
Yeah.
the season. So first to last is pretty good.
Yeah. Well, we actually chased your team right at the end of it. You guys beat us by a half game getting into the playoffs, and we were coming in hot. My team to your team, we
Yeah.
won like our last 10, and you guys like needed us to like if we won our last 11, like you guys would have been. We would have flip flopped but you guys held on to it. So
Yeah, we were pretty sure that who was it? Y'all were playing Las Vegas or something like that. We could
yeah,
never beat Las Vegas anyway. We're
no,
like, oh my God, they're gonna blow this game. We're like, wait, no, they should win because they know that we could never beat them. If we we could play them 100 times, we'd win once. Like we'd win twice, maybe.
yeah, yeah. Oh man, awesome, awesome. Were there any personalities that you really enjoyed hanging out with on that team? Anybody? Um,
Yeah, well, the captain of the team is always an interesting character, and he's got to shoulder the load of, let's see, he's got to deal with the camera people, he's got to deal with the coach, he's got to deal with the players, and then he's kind of like the in between guy. If something goes wrong with the cameras or the coach or the manager, JD, which we had a lot of confrontations with, they all went to him. So he was like carrying like all of the burdens of the team on his own. So like he could barely walk out the right field or the center field into play. So watching that was brutal.
yeah,
But
and that was Jacob Fabry, right? Yeah,
yeah,
He's
absolutely.
he's a good dude. I enjoy having good battles against him. He was probably one of the only people in my pitching career with him being a leadoff guy. So he wasn't always a leadoff guy, but when he was, I would intentionally throw a first pitch of the game changeup just because I knew he was swinging. Something that you would never do, like in like what I call a real game, where I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I'm I'm about 6,000 feet up. If I throw a fastball and he know a fastball's coming, he could probably pop one up, and who knows where this thing's gonna go. So
Oh yeah, it's not safe. Any balls in the air in that league, it's not. You can't
yeah,
trust it.
you can't. I try to explain to people, and people look at ERAs and stuff, and they were like, someone was like, your ERA the year before was like 6.5, almost 7, but then you ended up with a 3.1. I was like, you don't understand how like a 3.1 in that league is like that's like a one. Like
That's it's you should be celebrated if you can
yeah,
stay
exactly.
around 4. 4 is a good number.
Yeah,
4 is a good
yeah,
number.
exactly. So it gets a bad rep on that part, and and then you got hitters that go out that have Nintendo numbers like 26 home runs, batting 500, and everybody's like, come on, and
Yeah.
it
You
just it is what it is. I mean, it definitely gave me an opportunity to get better and get where I needed to go. I don't doubt that, but it was definitely an experience of a lifetime. And everybody likes to complain about the Pecos League, and don't get me wrong, I was definitely one of them. But I did understand what I was getting myself into those 2 years. Where it was like, all right, well, this is what has to happen. You gotta wear the mailroom every once in a while. In life.
Well, I'm glad you knew what you got into because me, on the other hand, I just walked into the buzz saw. I had no idea. I was like, well, this is where I'm at.
So yeah,
Oh, yeah.
you had no clue. Then you had your manager, and then you had a reality show. Like wow, congratulations, man! You took the big game.
Oh gosh, I was like, listen, if I get cut from this team in spring training, what a way to go in front of everyone. It's not like your parents knew about it and some friends heard about it. It's like that's on TV, and Benji, we're gonna have to let you go. You just really suck. Like,
Oh, I remember the 2 episodes that I saw. That there was one of the guys in spring training hitting. First of all, you have a.
a sledgehammer.
No, not that one. It was the guy hitting wiffle balls by the pool.
Yeah.
He had a solo wiffle ball thing, which, by the way, I didn't even know that was a product. I was like, wow, somebody missed out an opportunity for product placement there. You guys messed that one up. You totally should have jumped in on that. And he's over here just swatting ping pong balls with. I think he was hitting with like. I don't remember. He wasn't even hitting with a bat. He was hitting with something.
Yeah, he was bunting with like a hammer thing. Like I was confused. I was like, okay, so we're encouraging dropping the barrel. Let's go ahead and get this going. That's so good. I like this. Let it separate into thin air.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, that's so. Let's go over your skills real quick. You're a starting pitcher. You're like 6'9", 315 pounds.
There we go. I like that. That sounds good.
No, you're a big guy. You're like 6'5", like 220, but the thing that I found out when we played together, you got a hell of a stroke. I remember being in the cage when we were in Kansas, and I was like, whoa, check this guy out. This guy's hitting it harder than. than most people. So you're a starting pitcher. You went to University of Alabama Birmingham,
Hmm.
close to your hometown. We've talked about I got family in Birmingham, and it's I love Birmingham. I love going up there. I lived there for one summer playing some summer ball there, and I realized that I don't necessarily like it in long doses. It's like it's like a shot.
Can't blame you for that. Can't
It's
blame you for that.
it's a shot. Birmingham, Alabama, for me is like a nice shot of some Jack Daniels. Thank you, and I will not have any more for a little bit.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I'm gonna take a break. I'll
yeah,
let you know when I'm gonna come back.
yeah. But it was a good time. I was able to throw and get better, and it's pretty much the story of my life is always where can I throw, where can I get better. So,
Yeah.
um, let's run through that college career real quick. We got any accolades? Did we get anything
Uh,
good? You played Division One ball. That had to have been exciting.
yeah. I actually played for two Division I teams. I came out of high school. Um, I came out of high school ranked. I think it was like the tenth prospect coming out of Alabama that year out of high
Really?
school. I came out as a two-way guy. I went to Sanford, which is in Birmingham. I went there for 2 seasons. Um, did not throw much the first year at all. I did more hitting the first year. Um, I had some, I guess you call locating issues. Coach says throw it harder. I try to throw it harder, and now I have even smaller idea of where it's going. Like out of high school, it's like I'm just gonna try to throw it here, and it's like throw it harder. Okay, let's try to make it catchable. Like so.
You're more
Then
catcher.
exactly. Second year, I had a little run in with the coach. I threw better, so that actually it worked out well for me, and I had a chance to transfer, and I went to UAB after that. But I spent 2 summers in Orlando playing in a
The collegiate,
collegiate
Florida
league.
collegiate
Yeah,
league. Yeah. What team were you on
exactly.
down there?
The Sanford River Rats.
Really? Really?
Yeah, so that
I
was
actually
cool.
didn't even know that league existed. I was kind of upset about it because when I went to West Florida, um, they had sent me to Kansas, and then I found out that league was there. But I found out after my senior year, and I was like, why can't you send me? I live here in Florida. That's 5 hours away, and I had,
Yeah,
But I mean,
yeah.
Kansas was great. Don't get me wrong. I was able to play in Wichita, and that was an awesome experience. And I got to play in the Valley in Virginia, and that was great too. But it's still like
This is pretty close to home, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
like being like, what, maybe I'm not gonna throw this week. I'll go home for a week and say hi to the parents and and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah. But
so,
it worked out good. I mean, I had a couple guys from the schools that I played with go with me down there, so I made it fun. And coaches would come by and they tell you stuff to work on this and that. But as soon as you get away, especially if you struggled early in college, it's good to kind of change scenery and get the heck out of there and kind of
yeah.
start over.
So
Kind
you
of
were
idea.
basically, I guess you could almost say you were kind of like a JUCO guy, basically, by transferring out of there. And did you have to sit out at all, or
It was the very last year that you could transfer D1 to D1 without sitting out a season.
really?
It
Okay,
was the
that's
last time you could do
wow.
that.
Oh, okay. What year
So it
was that?
was, let's see, freshman year was 2006, 2007. I guess it was 2000. It was the summer of 2007. A
Gotcha.
long time ago, man.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. I
So,
understand. Yeah, yeah.
uh,
I got my 10-year reunion coming up this weekend, and it's kind
let's not talk about that.
of. I embrace it. I mean, I shave this, and I look like I'm 12. Like I get carded all the time if I shave this or whatever for anything. But you and your
Uh,
beautiful locks and that nice.
well, you got to work on this. The sun beats it up. It's a moisture problem.
Yeah, playing in Southwest Texas, it's probably a little more.
It's brutal. Like, yeah.
You never had a good hair day out there, did you?
No, no.
That's hilarious. Okay. All right. Well, that was cool. So then you go to UAB, and
Mhm.
what happened there? Did you?
Let's see. I show up. All right. So I have a good summer coming in there, and they signed me to come in and close for them. All right, sounds good. I'd rather do that anyway because it's such an adrenaline rush. They're like, okay, we're gonna close halfway through the season. I'm not doing that well. My shoulder's hurting. Turns out that I have uh, what is it? A slap lesion. I needed a couple anchors in there, and I had 3 tears in my rotator cuff. One of the tears had a tear next to it. So I actually had 4, but it healed back for just a time being. Then I had to get bursitis and capsule shrinkage. So it was pretty much the full ordeal. And
Now, what do you think that was caused from? Do you think that was?
That particular, I'm a firm believer that like if whatever angle that you're comfortable throwing, like arm angle that is,
Yeah.
it's and you don't have pain, I just don't see the reason to change that. And when I went to the Sanford the first time around, I'm not blaming it on them, but we changed arm slots and a little bit more over the top so that I could come out of the pin with a little bit more velocity. And 2 weeks later, I was shut down for about a month because I had some rotator cuff problems.
Yeah.
And so, I'd lean back down and I'd throw more three quarters and it'd feel better. And then they want me to bring it back up and then I'd have more issues. And I think it's just the wear and tear of all of it. And it was just kind of like a ticking time bomb. Eventually it was going to happen.
I'm never a fan of doing lessons or anything that happened with me. I was in the, I guess you could say I was in the same situation because I went to JUCO, and now I will say that my philosophy from high school to JUCO to 4-year, and then after that, when I got hurt, um, the things that research that I started doing and stuff, and I was being where I was at in this very lack of education. We didn't have a big university that did camps or anything like that really could trust. I would go to a Florida State camp. It was more like a camp showcase, so they really wouldn't help you or anything. And that was right at the beginning of the whole short arm thing on the backside, where everybody was really getting, I call it Kerry Wood. That's the only way that I can read it. But everybody calls it now this inverted W, which is really just an M to me, is what I call it, an M. And I don't, the thing that I like to measure pitchers from is guys that last. I think that's the best way for me to describe a successful pitcher. And, you look at Maddox, you look at Glavine. I can't say Smoltz because he had to change. He had to lower his spot because of the way he threw. And he was a real over-the-top guy, that threw. But you look at them, and they really didn't have, any issues. And they threw more innings and threw, came in prepared and strong. And I was a huge, you being up in Huntsville, I think you're a Braves fan, right?
No.
No.
Good try though.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm familiar with them because I hate them, but it's okay. Keep me moving. It's going to be fine.
Team? Are they the Cubs?
Yeah, we do really well normally.
Oh, that was a dick. I knew you were.
Yeah. We know a whole lot about arm injuries up in Chicago, so we can talk about this for days.
And, that was everybody was excited because there was a starting pitcher throwing 95. You had Mark Pryor doing the same thing, and then looking at how the guys threw that lasted the longest, your Satchel Paige, your Tom Severs, everybody was long and loose, and they had very minimal elbow flexion. What I call. And that was something that I like to do. And there's a trick that I like to do every time I'm, throwing with kids or, and doing lessons is, the lower that elbow is at this 90 degrees right here, the more flexion that you can go back right there. And I'm just reaching and I can, pretty much touch this wall behind me. The higher you go, see, look, the less the elbow flexes right there. And I think that is huge. And me throwing in college, and it was the start of this short arm, take the ball to hip, fingers to sky, and having this real 90-degree thing. And I was a guy that was a head jerker because I didn't understand how to counterbalance or go down and reach, just because everything was straight line throw. So that put a lot of pressure on the shoulder and the elbow, and eventually just turned into an overuse situation. And that sounds like the same thing with you. And I saw something online the other day that was Dr. James Andrews had said something about 98% of arm injuries are overuse, and looking at it and how you naturally throw, just like what you were saying is if that's your natural arm slot, I don't want to change that at all. I just want to put you in a good safe position and then go through that. Now if your elbow's below your shoulder, or the hand is inside real hard and creating tension on that elbow, maybe I'll say something about that. But how you throw it, I won't. As long as you don't hurt, I think that building on that.
I really think that's the big key is that, especially when they're younger, you can mold a little bit more there, but it's basically off of, are you sore? Are you hurting while you throw? Are you sore the next day? That's more encouraging. But if while you're throwing you have tightness, you have pain, you have something that causes you discomfort, then we should probably make an adjustment. But until that point, I really don't think it's necessary. And you can change your body position, you can change all that, but to arm swing and the release point, I think all that's the kind of stuff just kind of needs to find its way and settle into its own natural existence. Because as soon as you start forcing stuff and you try to make people create rhythm that they don't have inside of a delivery, is when injuries come, and they come in a hurry.
I agree. I agree, and that goes along with something else that I like to do, where, and I have a lot of dads that do this. You know, someone's like, "Hey, you know, teach my son a slider, teach my kid a curveball,"
Right.
and when I look at a kid and throw, and I'm not again, I throw a slider and a curveball and a cutter, um, and the kitchen sink
Hmm.
when I'm up there, whatever's going to get me an out. But I have learned that, originally in high school, I really tried to throw 12-6 because that was like the popular pitch. Throwing a
Right.
12-6 off the table, and the illusion with the 12-6 is that it looks kind of like a four seam fastball when you throw it right because the rotation is, that four seam spin and you're going to trick the guy. And I really wish, in going to those camps and stuff, it was the same thing, power breaking ball, this and that. And I even had, and when I got to junior college, they took my curveball away from me, and they were like, "No, you're going to be a three pitch guy, master those three pitches, and then go from there." And that always just never made sense to me. I never felt like I had my tool belt of pitches. I
Right.
came in,
Hmm.
I came in out of high school, four seam, two seam change. At the time I was throwing a two seam change, but I didn't even know what that was. I was throwing a curveball and slider. And my worst pitch was probably my slider. My best pitch was probably my changeup. And I could, you know, you see it now where, I'm a big fan of James Shields right now in the playoffs, and he throws two different changeups, and he throws them inside to lefties and righties. I mean, he threw his sequence that I saw to, who was it? Oh, it was lefty, big lefty. Help me out here.
Nope.
Uh, no.
Nope. I won't.
Hamilton, Josh Hamilton. He threw a sequence to him that made so much sense when I was watching it and seeing what he was doing. And then he did the same sequence, different location, but he threw a four seam inside changeup to Hamilton. Hamilton was so out in front, not even close, right? Then he came
Hmm.
back and went two seam inside change. Again, this one bounced. He swung right over the top of it. Then he went fastball four seam inside for a ball that he swung over the top of. Was completely late on it. And more I think about it, and especially being down in Mexico, it was something that I had done to righties that I really enjoyed. And here's the trick, you being a hitter, is if you see white ball and you see straight and you see inside, what do you think it is?
I mean, it's funny to get the fastball coming in, don't you?
Exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. And so by throwing that inside and letting it not get there, everybody sells out. First thing you're taught as a hitter, what were you taught the first thing for you to read?
I'm confused now. I'm worried. I'm going to answer this incorrectly. We were looking for plane, and so if we saw something hop up, then we were told to wait back on it. If we saw something that was hard and coming down, then you're cutting the hands loose.
Okay, so that's why
So
the changeup is effective on that, right? And so then if you see
right,
that, the
exactly.
next thing you look at is is it either spin or inside or outside?
I'm going heavy on spin.
You're going heavy on
So
spin.
yeah,
So
I'm
then
going
there's
heavy on
that four
spin.
seam change getting you right there. Now
Yeah.
we see that four seam inside. If you throw the four seam change right and you stay true to your four seam fastball spin and don't turn it over, if you stay right behind it, then
Hmm.
you're going to have that fastball spin. It's going to come in there, and then the last part is that
Yeah.
location. And
Yeah. Yeah. It's
if you get hurt, most of the time, what I've saw was that guys just rip it foul, because
hmm.
there's too many triggers of yes, 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 just like that you just saw that we talked about, and for you to throw, and then the two seam change having a little bit more run and stuff in there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just think it's that the sequences that people are throwing are actually getting the people out, and less of the actual pitch. I mean, if you locate the pitch about where you're going and you throw the pitch correctly, you can miss in location with a correctly thrown pitch and get the out because the sequence is set up correctly.
Exactly.
So it has less to do with I'm going to throw this pitch a lot harder and get this guy out, and more like okay, I'm going to make sure it's got that last little jump on the ball, and I'm going to try to throw it here, and if I miss a little in, a little out, it still has a chance to get the guy out, rather than just rip and roar and hope for the best. Like,
Yeah, I agree. So let me ask you this: this is one of my favorite questions to ask young guys. I know you and I have great pitching conversations. What do you feel like is more important, movement or deception?
ooh, ooh, well. Being a sinker guy, I'm heavy on movement because I throw 85% sinkers, so I go a lot off of that. But to be honest with you, if I'm going to go put somebody away, I'm trying to replicate the same the same delivery or appearance of a sinker out of my hand, same arm angle, same slot, same everything, and really just finish it different to where it breaks the wrong way so you can draw an X. So I'd say I'm banking on the movement so I can get my, that's where the bread and butter is right there. But then if we need a strikeout or something like that, it's important that you have some sort of deception that you can call on. So that would be my
See, I
secondary
love that
piece.
answer. I do love that answer because it's different per guy. Everybody thinks there's a right and wrong way.
Exactly, I agree.
But, with you, that's your style. You're staying true to you. It's true to your arm slot. You're gonna live or die by your sinker, as opposed to someone like me that I'm gonna live or die by my sequences and trying to locate my best pitch in this situation and try to deceive the guy rather than really, try to pound, pound, pound. I mean, even though I am a cutter guy, I feel like playing cutter, slider, cutter, four seam, cutter, changeup, or going back and forth and drawing the X like we were talking about. There is something that's more my game plan, and being in being a younger guy and not knowing what that was is, and seeing those, all the greats. I mean, you look in the playoffs now, Kershaw dominating. But I feel like his sequences have gotten super predictable,
Yeah.
and it's not even a bad thing. It seems like, it's more of a commonplace now in the show where pretty much every 2-1 count you're getting some form of hard slider. And you saw where he was ahead of guys his last outing, not tonight, I didn't really get to catch that, but and people are like, well, this is what I'm going to see if you're playing, people are playing cards against him, I think they're playing blackjack. Like, this is my percentage that I'm going to get this pitch. I'm going to sit on that because he throws this and this percentage,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, with a guy like that, he's got all the pitches that he's got in his bag are lethal in and of themselves, and so you really like. He's the exception to selling out to one pitch in each count. Like, he's the exception. Everybody else is you're reading pitches, you're reading location, and that's how you're Xing off pitches that you're going to swing or not swing at.
Yeah.
For him, like, and if he gets predictable in his sequence, his stuff should allow him to still be successful. But if everybody's selling out to one pitch, like in 2-1, like you say, if he's going slider in and I'm right-handed and he's trying to bring that back over the plate, I'm going to try to stay down and put this down the right field line. Like that's what you're waiting on. He comes inside, so be it. I'm going to go get another bat. You know, like
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree with that completely, and that's one of the things that I always try to, having young pitchers or people come up. I got one kid as a senior. He's a little inconsistent on his arm slot, but he has potential. He's one of those brain kids. He's like third in his class, and we just started going over spin. He's got a really good curveball, and as far as throwing it out and understanding not to try to make it spin, but use your grip and throw it as hard as you can out and let the grip make it move. And we just got into 2-seam sequences and change-ups and stuff like that because all he had was 4-seam. He barely could throw a change-up and then throw his curveball. And I go, that's great for high school, but you want to go play college ball and you want to go dominate college ball. Let's go do it. And I had a crop, and with him, I just sent a crop of about 7 pitchers off to junior college. I talked to him, one of them today, and he was like, hey, just went up to play at one of our rival junior colleges. Actually, he's in Alabama. He's down in South in Bruton at Jeff Davis, and he said it was like 3 innings, 2 strikeouts through 26 pitches, and I was like, in 3 innings? He's like, yeah.
Beautiful.
He's like, these guys don't understand. He's like, my coaches are like, hey, you throw a cutter inside to a lefty, and he goes, yeah, my coach taught me that a while ago. Like, just throw that thing, let it run across the plate. If he rips it foul, who cares? Move it in even more, And I was like,
yeah.
And then he goes, the first baseman's just got to be on his toes. I'm like, that's a 19-year-old kid. Good job.
Yeah.
Good job. He's like, hey, man, all the stuff you told me, my coaches don't understand, but I get it. And I was like, well, does it work with you? And he goes, yeah, it works every time. I'm like, keep doing it. They're not going to change it if it works. They're not going to complain about outs. Like, they may be like, hey, we want you to throw this fastball here, but, if you throw a cutter, it's kind of a fastball. So there you go.
Exactly. We're creating a little bit of gray area.
Yeah, we might have a conversation later about why that went down just a little bit at the end. But it was a ground ball.
I don't know what happens, Coach. I just throw it and hope for the best.
Yeah. Sometimes ignorance works perfect on there, huh?
Beautiful. I'm only 19. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Oh, dude. I heard it the other day. Tomorrow I get to go throw at the college that I train at, and one of the guys that's an assistant coach there, he hates me, but we're back and good now because his senior year he was #1 in the state. I threw a no hitter when I was a junior, ruined their whole moxie. Like, they were supposed to go win the state title. They were the guys, and I was just like, hey, change up, curve, fastball, go sit in. They're like, who's this guy? I'm like, hi.
Hey, I'm just in town for a little bit. I'm gonna be leaving soon so that I don't get shanked.
Yeah, so it was, and he works there now, and we always give each other a hard time. And one thing that, even though we grew up in the same kind of area, he's never caught me. And I told him last time, I said, why don't you get back there? Let's have a little fun, mess with these college kids a little bit. And, I'm throwing inside cutters to these, college kids. I saw, who was throwing, Wilson had a strikeout last night on a nasty 88 mile an hour inside cutter on a guy, and people were like, what the hell is that? And I'm like, that's a good pitch. That is righty, and just right off the inside corner. That's not fair. Like,
it's people that are complaining are the ones that know they can't hit it. Like, I did not see that coming. Yeah, this guy sucks. He won't even challenge me.
He won't even
Why?
challenge me. Yeah.
Why?
Like, what did he do? Hang a slider right there? Like, oh, it's a slider. Whack. Oh, whoa. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Saw what you did there.
Yeah. That was a new one, So, but yeah. So awesome. Well, let's get into your specialty, your bread and butter. When we were in Kansas, we got to play catch, and with one of our other buddies, who I'm going to hopefully get him on here, Ryan.
Yeah.
And we can talk about his nasty stuff also. But you and I, we had a great conversation about spin and trying to get things to do things. And with my arm slot, I actually do break out the sinker sometimes, but I actually use it more of an out pitch. Like you were talking about finishing it a little bit more. I try to use 2 different ways, and I'm sure you'll show us the grip. I remember, I've got a ball too, and we'll talk about, maybe we can exchange some ideas and some information here, which is what I love about this situation is the conversations that we've had over the years, in the bullpen or playing catch and stuff like that people don't understand, and why a lot of people are holding on to this information. If it were to get out there, I think it would just help the game so much. And that's one of the things that I really wanted to do with this is just, if anybody has a question, they can hop on here, send an email, ask a question, and we can be like, yeah, this is why the ball does that. You see in Jensen throwing 98 mile an hour cutters, and people are, the announcers say, oh, it's a natural thing. And like, me being a cutter guy, I'm like, no, it's not. Like, that's not natural. Like, it's just.
Yeah, somebody spent time to make that work like that. Like, let's give him a little bit of credit. He's not gripping it and just throwing it.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, probably what happened was when he was a catcher and he was throwing it and it did have natural cut, someone was going like, okay, let's get this guy to a cutter guy, maybe show him a couple things. Like, hey, now you have a clue of what you're doing. Now you can just let that thing fly. And that's the fun thing about the cutter is I'm sure you have to with your sinker is, sometimes you may miss location, but if it's a 4-seam straight ball, it's getting smoked. But
exactly,
if it's a cutter, like sometimes I've thrown a cutter and it'll back up on me and it'll be just whoop around the inside corner, and the guy's like, what the heck's that? And then the catcher's like, well, I missed, but I still got it.
It's a bad pitch, but yet it worked.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So let's go over that grip. Let's go through your thought process. I know that you have like a special glove thing and how the ball comes out.
This is true.
So let's go through the whole sequence here and see if we can't show everybody from.
All right, so basically what happened was after I had surgery and I came back, we had a different pitching coach. Okay, we sat down, I talked with him, and he saw me throw a couple times. Like, listen, you may used to be able to run it up there, but you can't do that right now. Your shoulder's just not. It's just not going to happen right now. Okay, so let's just try to drop the pride for a little bit, and let's see if we can get something out of your 5th year. Let's try to be productive. And so the way I throw 4 seams anyway, my hand rolls over a whole lot of pronate. Pretty heavy, and some of the ball would sink a little bit here and there when I did throw it correctly, but it was by accident because I had no idea what I was doing. So anyways, like, listen, back off. We're going to throw the ball at 80%. We're not going to try to blow it by anybody. And so what happened basically was he wanted me to throw a 1 seam. So it's pretty much, you get this right here, and I would lay it over, and I'm just getting on 1 seam like this.
You split it.
Yeah, I try not to. It's really not a fancy grip. It's a thumb on the seam on the bottom.
Yep.
Okay. And basically all I'm trying to do is, depending on the day, my fingers will move up on it or I'll move down on it.
See,
okay?
this is what I love about this too, because I'm the exact same way. It's like depending on the day. When I grab the cutter, like one day I could be right in the middle of the ball, and I could really, and another day, like I'm like, you know what, maybe the wrist is a little here, and I'm pushing it, or
Exactly.
it's just what you're feeling. It's such a feel pitch.
100%. And if you have a pitch that you're going to lean on, okay, you have to get it right before you get on the mound. That's what I'm a firm believer. So while I'm warming up, okay, and just playing catch nice and easy, that's when I find out. The catcher always knows I'm going to ask about it. It's like, okay, is there a line on that? So when I throw it, normally you'll have one single line,
Yeah.
okay, and it's going to be tilted off the side because I throw goofy, so it's off to the side. So it's one line like this, okay.
Yeah.
And if the line's blurry, then I make an adjustment on the grip, and if that's not it, then I go back to the original grip, and then I make sure I finish the pitch correctly. Okay. Anyway, so basically
No,
all
hold on. Let's go over that.
yeah.
That's huge. That's like the key to the whole thing about the sinker is having the prominent, heavy line, as opposed to the blurriness. Now that is the secret. That, by the way, to the sinker, and
Yeah.
for everybody that I ever played catch with, or when I throw it, that's the same thing I ask them. I'm like, is there a line, or is it kind of off kilter? Is it not rotating correctly? And correct me if I'm wrong. Basically, what we're trying to do to create this line is with the baseball right here. We have this seam. This seam has to perfectly replicate into the next ball. And see, I did that terribly right there, but it has to come through kind of like this, right? Where it's kind of perfectly going through. And see, I did it terrible again right there. So I can't. Yeah, there it is. There it is. Now I got it. There we go. So it's got to come through perfectly like that. And that's going to create that line that we're looking for. And in fast motion, going away from you, could you ever see the line going away from you? Or
Absolutely not. It's more of a feel thing. It's a feel thing on my side, and it's a look to the catcher. And as soon as we line up, you know what I mean. It's like we're bouncing this and that. I'm like, oh, that one felt terrible. That one felt terrible. That one felt better. All right, was that one better? No. Okay, just kidding. Didn't mean it. You know what I mean? So like,
yeah.
So you're working it out, and then but I think as soon as you click and it's like, okay, that one I was like, all right, that's the one. I'm like, okay, let me see if I can repeat that again, because obviously throwing one good sinker is not going to get somebody out. You need to you drop one in there and then you put it right back in the same spot, and let's do this. You know what I mean? Like this is going to be all day.
Yeah.
So it's getting the feel right and making sure the rotations are right and allowing your body to build some rhythm, because this is a rhythm pitch. This is not heavy four seam, overhand curveball type of thing. This is finesse. No matter, I was throwing in college, I was throwing 83, 85 going into Tuscaloosa, getting people out in Tuscaloosa at Alabama, getting people out, at Mississippi State, you know what I mean? Like this is not just some like getting pushover like a low DN1 guy, like D1 guys out. Like this is legitimate people. Like we're pitching against what's his name's playing third base for the Washington Nationals right now. He played at Rice, and can't remember what the heck his name was. Anyway, not important. He went first overall and got like $3 million. Whatever, not a big deal, right? Okay, so
that's semantics.
Exactly. So, but what's important, I feel like for me, and doing this, okay, it's different as a starter and as a reliever, but as a starter, it's important to have rhythm and create your own rhythm so that you can repeat the pitch over and over again, so that way you can be successful over a long period of time. If you're coming out of the pen and you're throwing this pitch, you're doing, most of the time I would get brought into situations where it's like rocking a hard spot, like one out, second and third. Hey, we're up by one. Don't blow it for us. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. That changes everything. Now we're just trying to make it move. We're just trying to throw something that looks like a strike, but doesn't end up as a strike. So let's get somebody to swing, right? So
exactly.
But learning a pitch, you don't want to do that. You're trying to get some sink. You're trying to get consistent sink and the same thing over and over again, so you can know where to start the pitch. So if it's moving, hammering one side, like way more two seam, then I'm rolling over too much. You got to stay through it a little bit more. If it's going straight down or a little bit down and it's going down in the corner, that's beautiful as long as it's consistent.
So you like the sinker. That's interesting. That's interesting. You like the sinker. Sorry to interrupt you in a good way.
No, good.
You don't necessarily like it up and down or side. Not even. I've heard people like it to be almost this way, but you're actually saying that you want it maybe like a 10. Maybe let's say an 80-degree angle, so it's more like that right there.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm not picky about this because I feel like if the ball goes down, the ball goes down and it's going to get underneath the barrel.
Yeah.
Okay, so as long as I stay away from the two seam alone movement, because if you repeat a two seam over and over again, they're going to catch on in a hurry.
Yeah.
Okay, now if you're sinking a ball, sinking a ball, and then you run like a slider over that goes the other way, then it just throws everything out of whack, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we're trying to get. We're trying to get that last, like, I need to work to get underneath this pitch, but if it goes the other way, then I'm going to look foolish. So there's always that last little thing in the back of your head, like, this may not be the right, and it did the same thing again. Oh my gosh, like that. So I'm actually going for anything from straight down to just like a click over to the side. So like it's just like here or off to the side. So anything in this like little triangle like this is beautiful for me, as long as it's doing the same thing over and over again. If it's, like I said, if it's hopping around a little bit, then you're not going to be able to locate. And if you can't locate, then you're worthless to everybody. So you have to be able to locate the pitch. So that's why repeating the same pitch over and over again becomes very important, especially if you're throwing something that moves and that's supposedly a fastball.
Yeah, allegedly.
Allegedly, exactly.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the things. Me being me mixing in the sinker is something more that I use. I use it heavy on lefties when I really want to get a double play ball. And I really enjoy throwing the difference of the two seam where I can make it go this way and then the sinker. And I mentally have to have, you're talking about pronating, I mentally have, one of the things that always baffled me, you'll love this story, is when I was in college, we had this like mandatory, you throw 4 seams arm side, you throw 2 seams glove side, that's just what happened, right? And I'm like, okay. Well, my throwing partner to this day, he laughs about it. And he turned into a guy similar to you where he was throwing hard and then kind of ran into some issues and then just turned into a 2-seam all day guy. Just like, and then started working on that sinker and then just came in and, was a high 80s guy and then turned into a mid 80s guy. And he's like, all right, whatever, just, and just letting it work. And I would throw 2 seams at 90 to 92 miles an hour that would not move. And he would just laugh. He would just be like, dude. I go, dude, he's, I'm talking to my coach. My coach is like, just throw it like your fastball. I'm like, I am throwing it like, and it just come in there, just,
it's
straighter
like,
than the board.
Please,
I'm like, can I get anything? And I didn't understand, how guys got it until, I finally started doing research, trying to figure it out. And now, what I like to teach when people are throwing 2 seams is, I think just like you were saying about the finish, it is a fastball pitch, but I feel like for me, it's a different pitch mentally. Like, it's not a fastball.
Oh, yeah. Exactly, yeah.
With my 2 seam, what I'm trying to think about is these 2 seams are pointed up for me at a 2 o'clock range. And I'm trying to finish 2 to 7 and pull that thing like that. So when it comes off, it has that rotation. So then it grows and then it goes. But when I'm doing the sinker and I'm on that same thing, instead of going there, now I'm actually trying to pull my thumb in a little bit to get that pronation and really go in there and throw it hard so I can get that, not necessarily, like you were saying, and I feel like mine would actually do that almost, for me, I kind of felt like it was like an accelerated changeup on how I was pronating on it to get it to go there.
Right.
And I just wanted it to move. I wanted it to look different. It would have that line on it and, just go from there and just get a double play. So that's, that you going through that's one of the exciting things about that. Now, you're talking about a sinker and then a slider. Do you have any other pitches that we're going back into that deception thing?
Yeah, I gotta tell you, it really depends on what we're doing because I try not to get stuck into one specific mold as a pitcher because I feel like that's how you get hurt.
Well, that's like we're talking about with Kershaw with his thing, going and throwing the same sequences.
Yeah, but depending on the day, like, okay, so let's say like this past season, I was a long relief guy near the end of the season. I made some mechanical, I basically cleaned up some stuff and freed up my arm a little bit more. So, when we're sitting, let's say 86 to 89, we sat the last season, 89, 92, getting up to 93, 94. Like now we do different things now because the velocity allows you to do a little bit more. So at the end of the season, we're mixing in maybe some high 4 seams or something like of that sort. Maybe mixing a split finger occasionally, just as a show pitch, not with anybody on, but just like you said, like something in the back of your head, so that everybody's coming up there. That's not the same thing. We saw this guy a couple of times. He threw 15 pitches, ran off the mound, and we saw 15 sinkers. Like Okay, now we're gonna change it up a little bit because people are catching on to that. Now we're gonna start with slider. We're gonna start with slider again.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're gonna run it under the hands. Completely different sequence, but because of what the batters have seen and we know what they're looking at or what they're expecting, then we can kind of change that. But like you said, like I'd like to run some four seams that were a little bit more elevated, or honestly a little bit lower, where they would spit on a sinker because it started too low, and just try to ride that thing up underneath and try to get up underneath the strike zone a little bit,
Yeah.
something they're not expecting, right? Um, so I basically stick with sinkers and an occasional four seam, and then I throw it's a curveball from a 3/4 slot. So I think curveball, so I don't think slider because I throw terrible sliders. So it's a hard curveball from a 3/4 slot. So my fingers actually get in front of it. It's a curveball that I just throw in front like
See, I
this.
actually call it stuff, you know, especially when I'm teaching it. I like that. I like that you went through that, and maybe it's something. Maybe I can help you with something. The 3/4 slot. You know, I feel like the breaking ball, if you're just trying to make it do something, you know, in calling it a curveball or something like that. I think that if you just process the arm angle of what you're trying to do. When I'm teaching guys, we talked about this a little earlier. When I'm teaching, I've got a 12-year-old kid that's just an absolute monster, and he's a little bit bigger guy, just turned 12, starting to come into his own, but he has natural cut, and I showed him even at 11, and he went to a 12-year-old and a 13-year-old tournament and just carved him up, and we sat four seam cutter, and his four seam has a little bit, and his cutter has a lot more. And I remember talking to a dad, and they were like, "Oh, this kid's throwing a slider. It's terrible for his arm." I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa. This kid's been throwing this way all his life." And I was like, "He's not turning the ball. He's throwing it here." And we since then we've actually added to where the cutter, when I teach, is like a pre-slider. And now what we're doing, we have the same grip. We're going through it, and then we're just coming around it, just like what you're saying. And now he's figured out, actually, by throwing into a net, which was cool for us to go through this, is the faster he threw it out, which is what we were talking about, and the faster he really didn't really worry about making it spin, as opposed to being in this grip and understand what he's trying to do when he's trying to do it. He would get more of that tumbling action. So for you with that, you know, curveball, or you throw terrible sliders or whatever, I think that the terminology might help you just to call it a breaking ball, just something that's a spinner, you know, spinner, and make it just literally make it spin and see what happens. You know, I mean, with you leaning on it, you know.
I really feel like most of the time when I throw the pitch well, okay, and when I get into a groove, almost like with throwing sinkers, if you get into a rhythm with it, you don't leave it if it's working, okay, and the making. People want to make curveballs hop up and get around because it looks good. Okay, that looks good with the camera angle. It looks even better when you're hitting. Like, please throw that thing that hops up. Oh my God, it's beautiful. Okay, so like the deception part of it, it's just I'm looking to throw that particular pitch as hard. I'm trying to throw that with more effort, flat, and that way, whatever happens from there on out, I'm comfortable with it because I feel like it's going to have significant bite on it. And whether he swings at it or not, okay, it's something that he's got to think about then. If it comes up and hops up, then all of a sudden, okay, that pitch is not as scary as I thought it might be.
Yeah.
But, you know, like we're just trying to create a little bit of chaos in the head so we can go right back to the bread and butter and put it under the hands. Exactly. So,
you hear, I love that. I love the high and what we were talking about. And that's one of the things I think that a lot of people, you look at the effective guys, Shields and all these guys that really add the high fastball, or because I think there's a high fastball, which is maybe eye level, the elevated fastball, which is about letters to shoulders. And you don't see that a lot out of guys, you know, in general, about, you know, possibly being effectively wild or doing that just to add another element. You see guys that constantly are throwing things hard, down, and you're basically eliminating, you know, it's really hard to hit this ball. But if you're really consistent about throwing it to a small area, and you hear all the time where you got big leaguers that get sent down to minor league ball and they can't hit, and they're like, "Oh, it's way easier to hit in the show than it is because guys throw more strikes, they throw things more down." And you know, you got a kid that might run one up, you know, up here a little bit for a second, and you know the guy's not used to it. But I think that's huge. That's one of the things that I always, and I'm not necessarily ever worried about missing up on guys. You know, unless it's a breaking ball, it's going to be a hanger. But I do like what you're saying, you know, trying to match planes, be deceiving, you know, have it come out. If it bounces, it bounces. Who cares? Maybe you'll get a swing at it. But, you know, to counteract that part, like you were saying, let there be a hump. You know, I personally think Kershaw has a hump in his fastball, even though people said that he doesn't. But there's no way you can throw a 75-mile-an-hour curveball like that without having some form of something like that. You know,
Right.
decepting-wise, you know, that just doesn't work that way. And he's a predominant forcing guy. One thing that I don't see him have, and I always wonder about this, is why didn't the guy throw a changeup? I mean, he's a lefty. Like, I thought that's what you did as a lefty. Like,
I thought you learned to change up before you learned a fastball. I thought that's how it works. Like,
yeah,
it's like
exactly.
every lefty is born with a good changeup. Maybe
like,
not spectacular, but it's better than mine.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even if you just show it and you bounce it, like we're saying, like he throws that forcing fastball, and I know he's throwing a slider. That's great, but where's this guy at? Where's that forcing change? Why has no one ever said, this and that? And I think that's what he's running into problems with the Cardinals, where they're just like, okay, we don't have to have a changeup. We were just talking about, the hardest things to hit, is read up, down. That changeup comes out straight, And,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I can be critical of Kershaw to a point where I'm like, hey, you're way better than I am, or I'll ever be. But in the same sense, I'm like, if we're playing a video game, I'm like, dude, what are we doing here?
Yeah. This should be easier. You don't have a changeup. This guy knows that.
Yeah.
What's going on? Like,
yeah, you pretty much only have straight, hump, cut.
Yeah.
Okay. Like,
okay. Yeah. I just think that until he gets to the place maybe in his career where he needs to learn that pitch, because obviously he's just running through people through these long seasons for a long period of time. It's not necessary yet, but it makes it even more dangerous later down the road. He's like, okay, I'm going to pull this out of my back pocket. Where has that been?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and the whole thing starts all over again. Now everybody starts from scratch. Like,
exactly. Like, if you're a sinker guy going out there, and then maybe you do add and that was one of the things I was going to ask you about too. Is maybe you add a split change in there, something. I don't know if you even played around with that guy, but I really like it just as another variable of a changeup. I throw 2, possibly 3 different changeups, but I always try to play the changeup off that fastball to be deceiving off of what it is. I mean, that's throwing inside changeups or something that looks like something else. I think is way more valuable than going out and trying to just pronate the thing. And I want to be behind it, and I want to behind it, let it carry, let it do its natural work on it, and see what happens. So I think also it's important that we get away from everybody's worried about hitting people right now. I think it's okay to start moving feet. Oh yeah.
I think the second that the hitter gets comfortable in there, you throw too many strikes. It's okay to miss and miss on purpose. It's okay. I'm not saying to hit somebody, but I'm saying, you run one in around hip high and they had to hop out of the way. Nobody's on base. The ball goes to the backstop. Hold your glove up. I'm gonna need another ball.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, not a big deal.
That's hilarious that you said that. We last week or 2 weeks ago, I did this cool little drill that I'd never done before, pitching wise, but it was really fun for me to do. It was a runner on second, 2 outs, bottom of the ninth, and the only way you could score the guy was by getting a hit. That's the drill that we did. Well, I go 9 for 9, get all 9 guys out. Placed in junior college, get to the 10th guy. End up having like a 9-pitch at bat against this kid, throwing the kitchen sink at him, different locations. He's fouling it off. It's 3-2, and finally end up going cutter in, and I get the old typical barrel in jam job over the pitcher, and it nestles in between the shortstop and me, like just dude, like, and the whole, everybody goes crazy. They win the game. They're excited about it. They don't have to run. And it's kind of it was a good fun thing. I had a little extra adrenaline going. It was at the end of my throwing session, and so it was a good way to go out there. So this past week or last week when I faced the kid, same situation. He gets up. Oh, I'm sorry, not same situation. He gets up, and I get this wild hair. I'm like, you know what? This kid's been running his mouth. Afterwards.
Oh yeah.
And I go, you know what?
I'm not better than this to act up a little up, right?
Yeah, exactly. So what I did was something and everybody freaked out because I had a screen back there so they could watch me throw. I threw one 10 feet, and he's a lefty. I threw one 10 feet behind him, four seam, right behind him, and he flipped. He got out of the box. His eyes were wide. He was like, "Dude, what the heck is that?" And he goes, "I just want you to know that I'm here, and it's going to be a good day." And and his coach was like, "See, I told you shouldn't run your mouth." And he was like, he goes, "Dude, I seriously saw my life flash from my eyes." And I was like, "The ball was 10 feet behind you. Like, if I was gonna dot you, I just want you to know that that's where I'm gonna throw it. I could throw it there if I wanted to."
Exactly. The whole thing where you're just like, you can trust me, I'm not going to smoke you with this ball.
Yeah,
We should never get there. It's like
yeah, exactly.
I'm not too good to start a little something, get some people riled up because that's part of it.
Oh yeah,
That's
exactly. I
part
mean,
of it.
that being down in Mexico and playing, it was awesome to see how passionate both sides people were. And when someone did get hit, they understood when it was okay. I was trying to come in and I hit you. It happens. Or the guy, pimped a home run and then you smoke the next dude. Like, it's like
Everybody
you
goes,
got
well, you had that coming. Sorry about
yeah,
it.
exactly. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like, well, you take your medicine and go to first. It's what you're supposed to do.
Hmm.
And so the side of the major leagues that always bothers me is when someone does miss inside, like the Wainwright Puig thing, and people get all bent out of shape, like, oh, you're in the major leagues and you should be able to locate better than that. Well, it was an 0-2 fastball, and he tried to go two seam inside. Sometimes you miss. By the way, you're missing by an inch.
Yeah.
And I try to explain to people you have this room for error. I explain it as like shotgun spray, where you have this little window that if you hit your spot, it goes where you want it to. Well, if you miss by that much, half an inch or an inch, you're going to smoke a dude, and that's
Yeah.
the consistency of that. And he hit Puig, and Puig didn't react. Adrian Gonzalez comes out, and he gets all bent out of shape. But in the same sense, I'm like, come on, man, it's baseball. Like, people get hit. Like, I don't care if
Yeah.
you're throwing 100 miles an hour or not. Like, it's the risk you have of getting in the game.
Exactly right. And as long as nobody's head hunting, I don't really see a problem with it because if you're upset about it, then you can smoke my guy.
Yeah.
But I lose the whole point where we do it to get even and somebody gets on first base.
Yeah.
Then he's still second base. He gets bunted over and there's a fly ball. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like you're like, what? Like you're putting a guy on base. What's all this huge like get on base stats that we have now? It's what we played in college. We called it shoot ball because our coach's name was Brian Shoop. And he played the odds. Like if the first guy gets on base, if like there's a freebie and it's coming out of the chute, like the first batter, it's like a 65% chance he's going to score. 65%.
Yeah.
It's like I'll take those odds all day. Like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I don't care who's pitching,
and
whatever
you
it
don't
is,
see
and
that.
you're
You
gonna
don't
put it
see
on.
that all baseball season. You don't see that. And like in
Mhm.
Mexico, I saw it all the time where it was like, oh, the situation calls for it, 3-hole hook, oh, you're bunting the guys over first and second, like, or
Exactly.
you're trying to do some kind of chop play to get the ball moving to see what happens. But instead, like when you get to the show, and that's why like I love facing affiliated guys or people up there, and then doing these advanced sequences where I'm like, change up inside, righty, four seam change up inside, woof. They're like, what was that? I'm like, well, hey, it's I don't have to throw the ball where you want it. I don't have to come up and throw a first pitch fastball. I can come up and just go, yeah, or
Yeah.
just throw a little bit, and everybody's like, oh, you won't throw me your best fastball. It's like, why not throw my best pitch in the best location?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. As a hitter, and I get the part where you want somebody to come after you with a fastball because there's a sense of pride that comes along with it. It's like but as a pitcher, it's less important that you flex in front of everybody that's there, and more important team wise that however it needs to happen, I'm going to try to get this guy out. And if it's one of those things where I'm going to throw three sliders, starting at the knees, going down, if you chase three, I'm not apologizing. Like
Yeah.
like that's not my fault. Like you shouldn't have been swinging. You should have a 3-0 count now, but you're a moron. Like don't like that's not
Yeah.
my fault.
Exactly. Yeah,
So
I've heard that a lot in my career. People mistake my cutter for a slider and like, you won't throw me a fastball, and someone's like, that kind of is a fastball.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And you know what? You should get out of that in high school. In high school, that carried a little bit of weight because most people are just going to throw fastballs, and the curveball is like, oh, did you see that? But it's not something you can throw for a strike.
Yeah.
We're at the point now. If you can throw three pitches for a strike on both sides of the plate, you're going to be effective, and you should be respected as somebody that's going to locate at whatever the count is, whatever the pitch they feel like can get you out.
Yeah.
This is not something like, well, I got the best of you this time because obviously I'm a bigger man than you are. Like that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like this is a thinking man's game now.
Yeah,
We're way past the bowing up, and I'm just going to make you look bad. Like that doesn't happen anymore. It's like, oh really? You hit a ball off my forehead. Not cool.
You just hit a ball on my forehead.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you got me that time. Like I knew better than that. Like what am I doing?
There's way more for you to lose as a pitcher, is what I've seen. Even in a tryout setting or in a game or whatever, for you to throw a fastball and a fastball count, instead of playing the odds, like, everybody's talking about walking guys and this and that, but I feel like if you're, like you're saying, if you're around the zone, I don't even feel like you have to be perfect on it. You can be something with movement, like a sinker, like a cutter, like a two seam, and be down a little bit, and not necessarily have the guy comfortable, but just throwing different things. That's just my philosophy. You're gonna ride or die with a two seam. I'm sorry, with a sinker, but you're gonna move it in and out, up and down. And that's almost like the same thing. What I'm saying, and then okay, he's gonna throw sinker inside, and then he throws slider, starts in the same slot. Next thing you got the guy waving at it, and so. That's the part of the game that I enjoy, and when I go to a major league game, I always want to sit behind home plate and not sit next to the Yahoo that yells, the Tiger Woods get in the hole / get out of here ball every time. Yeah. I'm over here appreciating 10 minutes.
I'm trying to watch somebody be beautiful with their craft right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys hammered eating a hot dog.
Yeah. This guy's trying to explain to his son in his Walmart gloves over there. He's like, the ball goes up, you got to yell, get out of here, otherwise it's not going to go.
It's like, that's what's wrong with our youth right now. That kid should never play past 6 years old. Don't let it happen.
That or give him to me, all right?
No, yeah, exactly. But, gosh. Yeah, but I really think it, lastly, I think it's important that you have an idea of what you're going to do up there per day based on what kind of team that you're facing, and you make adjustments as they make adjustments. You don't make adjustments because it's the second time through the order. If they are failing to make adjustments, then they will see sinkers underneath the hands under their barrel all day long. Yeah. And I'll bring it back off the plate, back on the plate against the lefty, because they think the ball's inside, so obviously it should be easy to hit. Okay, show me. Show me. And until somebody actually does get their hands through and hit something up the middle off that, then I'm not going to change what I'm doing. And so I think it's important that people want to hop around and do some fancy stuff, but I think it's also really important that you know what you do well and you stick with what you do well. And until somebody else shows you that they can handle that, then you stick with it and you just make them eat it. I really think that's important because there's a certain, I was never good at throwing a whole bunch of pitches well. I got to the point where I could throw this pitch. I got 2 pitches today. And if I have to, I'll reach in the bag and I'll throw this other one. Okay, in high school it wasn't like that because I didn't recognize a quality pitch and a non-quality pitch. It's like, oh, that one moved this way, that one moved that way. Both of those are kind of bad. Neither of them are good. They're not terrible, but whatever. But you want to know what you do well, and then you just want to lean on that. And I think it's important that when people learn how to throw pitches and they're discovering themselves as a pitcher, that they really hone in their craft and put in the work of repetition to where when the guy puts down a 3, you can locate a slider. You're not just throwing it. You can throw it correctly, and it does what you want, and it's an effective pitch. And instead of just going up there and rip and roar, and sometimes they're good and sometimes they're not, that's not going to get you signed. That's not going to get you looked at. They want to see, can you do it over and over again for 6 innings? Show me. If not, then you're just another one of the guys.
Yeah, exactly. I agree totally. It's, going out and, that's one of the things that I pride myself on is being consistent. And, I matched the most amount of innings I've ever thrown in a season. I was, funny story, I was 1 strikeout away in a game that I was winning from 100 for the season, and my manager pulled me out in my last start. And on the only walk of the game on a 13 pitch at bat, where with 2 outs in the 8th inning, he took me out with a runner on first, and that was my 94th pitch. And I was like, what are we doing? Yeah, he's like, it's the end of the year. We're not going to make playoffs. You might get moved up, this and that. But, we'll just, we're going to make change. I'm like, if I strike out one more guy, I got 100, right? And he's like, well, we already made the change. So, and I was like,
oh, you're trying to cut my heart out. Yeah. You're doing it. Thank you.
There's going to be 2 9s right there. I was like, when have you ever done 100 of anything?
Those are 2 9s. You know what comes next? Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I mean it was really fun, and just like you were saying, with your sinker, for you to show it for be a strike and not be a strike. Lackey last night, the announcers weren't even talking about it, but he was throwing. I've never seen him throw a cutter. All of a sudden he gets to to St. Louis. Someone's like, hey, try to throw this, maybe, get a wrinkle in it or something. And he's throwing, I've never seen, he's always been a guy that's been a heavy two-seam guy, possibly even a sinker from the left side of the rubber. And now he's pitching from the right side of the rubber, playing that cutter angle, and you see all these check swings, and Molina's set up this far off the plate, and that thing is just sweeping right across, at 90, and I was laughing my ass off, going like, ha! I was like, I remember doing that, like just going cutter black, like.
From a guy that used to be mid-90s, and now he's throwing cutters, running them off the plate, you know what I mean? Upper 80s, touching 90 or so, whatever, it's like, it's just not worth all the effort to rear back and throw it that hard anymore if I can just do something else.
Yeah, exactly. And then, he's drawing the X in the outside corner, getting it because he over there just spotting cutters 2 balls off the plate and then starting at 2 balls off the plate, letting it run.
Bring it right back on.
Yeah, I'm like, that's hilarious.
Yeah,
they're going like, that's not a strike. And, K-Zone showing like this much of the baseball caught the corner. And I'm like, yeah, that's a strike.
Close enough for everybody that's ever thrown a ball from the rubber in their life. Like,
yeah, exactly.
And it caught it closely. All right, let's get out of here.
Awesome. Well, so you're up in Huntsville. You got any plans next season? You're a broad guy like myself. You're South Africa. What's the plan?
Yeah, so normally in the winters, I normally would head off down to South Africa. I think I had an offer in Australia. I don't really want to throw until like after Christmas because that's kind of when I get like ramped back up again. So now I'm kind of in the time where I would work out and do the running and try to get my body where I want it to be. And but chances are I'll probably head out, end of December, beginning of January, and throw somewhere where they don't speak English. That's normally the plan.
Yeah, I was hoping to get some winter ball. I had a couple discussions with some people, and just waiting to hear back and just trying to stay ready. But it's the same thing. It's a grind for us. Indie minor league Pecos guys. You got that attached to us, and
we are Pecos guys. I guess we'll forever be Pecos guys. There's nothing we can do about that.
Did you see there's another league up in like Northern California, Oregon, that's like started up or something like that?
It's pretty sick from what I heard. Yeah.
Oh, you did hear about it? I'm sure.
Yeah. Was it the Pacific League? Dude, there's like we had a guy, one of our guys on our team that was this year that. He was our closer. He had, I can't remember how many saves he had. Like 26 saves or something stupid. I can't remember.
Who was it?
Byron Minnick.
Oh, okay.
And he's from NorCal, and he played
from Germany. I don't know.
Yeah, he's about right, huh? But he played in the league the year before, and he was on the Maui team, which sounds awesome. I mean, who doesn't want to spend the summer in Maui?
Yeah, one. Yeah.
The 2 teams in Hawaii aren't a part of the team, so they just pulled it off to the north part of California, and so all the teams are within about an hour of each other.
That's not too bad.
It's not bad.
Yeah, I got an offer to go up there. It was just a little too late outside of the throwing. I think I was like a month and a half out, and they were like, "You want to come, pitch for a playoffs?" And I was like, "I'm not exactly in." I lost it. I got to get it back.
It disappears so quickly. You work all summer, and
that
just like,
oh my gosh. That's so depressing too of how that happens. Like you feel like $100, and then you go like I made a video and popped it out there. Like it was two and a half weeks. Yeah, 2.5 weeks after my last outing, and I had gone from like 93, 94 to like 90, 91. I was like, oh gosh, like.
I'm giving a lot of good effort right now. What is happening?
Yeah.
Like this gun is not on. This gun's not right.
In Florida, there's humidity. There's got to be something.
There's humidity. It rains. Terrible for acoustic environment. Like.
Yeah. I got a high school catcher. I don't really.
Oh God, stick it! Come on.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. It was a blast. We got an hour in. It was, went by fast. That's why I really like this. Just, the conversation that we had. Exactly. I appreciate you coming out. Hopefully we can get together between now. I know around Thanksgiving, it's either Thanksgiving, Christmas, or New Year's. I don't know how the family does, but I'm up in that Birmingham region, so we'll try to. Last time we tried to get up there, we'll see what we can do, and if we can't get a game of catch in, as our friend would say. Our friend Ryan,
exactly.
What a game of catch.
Yeah, it's exactly right. We'll game of catch, or we'll go shoot shotguns. One of the two will happen. The shoulder will get beat up.
Shooting guns actually kind of scares me a little bit. I get a little.
Okay, then we'll find something else to do then.
I don't know. I'm always like, I don't necessarily. It's not even like I don't trust myself as much. Like the technique is too much there. Like the
Hmm.
anticipation to get there is like I'm just like, all right, well, they're like it's gonna kick. I mean, I've shot a couple, skied a couple times, but then again, I get way too competitive, way too fast. So I'm like, yeah, let's waste $1,000 worth of skeets real quick, so I can just keep just knocking them out.
I would love to see you spend $1,000 on those. $10 for 500. Like I can't wait to
Yeah.
see how long you're gonna be out there shooting these things.
You never know. I don't know. I see what I'm saying. That's my education and the hunting world. I'm like, let's go. I have to be perfect at this. I'm
Yeah,
like, hey.
I'll watch and video it. So don't worry, I'll put it on
Yeah,
there
we'll
for
figure
everyone
it
to
out.
watch as well.
All right, well, let's go. Thanks to the sponsors, Born in the Cage. Go to their website, borninthecage.com. Those guys are outstanding. We'll talk some more. I'll get you on their page and see what hopefully we can get some shirts. So you're a rep, man. You're a gear whore just like myself. I love it.
100%.
Absolutely. They got hats now too. They got a little logo. We'll get on there. It's a new era too. This is a flex, nice little Emerald Coast Baseball Academy hat.
I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to get that exact mechanical form. If anybody can help me with that, do let me know.
Dude, it's so funny. I was talking to someone online that had just found my stuff, and they're like, how pretentious are you that you put yourself on your hat? I'm like, and I said, hey, you know what? It works because I get to use it in lessons. Because kids I'm like, do this right
Do
here.
Oh,
From
okay.
the
So I can quote you
side,
on
yeah,
this. Don't
yeah.
worry, I'll take care of it. I'll call Ryan myself and make sure he's going to get on here, take care of you
Yeah,
properly.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. And thanks again to our sponsor. And we'll have some more stuff out soon. If anybody has any questions for Benji, how can they get a hold of it? If anybody wants to learn a sinker or have a question, you're up in Huntsville. Probably
Mm-hmm.
Facebook probably be the easiest way to.
And look me up on Facebook. I got a goofy baseball picture on there. Also, they get a hold of you, they can get a hold of me. So,
Awesome. There we go. That'll work out. I can always forward stuff. The sinker master hiding out in Huntsville, Alabama. Trying
oh
to.
boy.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate it, and we'll definitely get this going again soon. It was awesome.
All right, brother. We'll see you later.